We're going to take a look at the HUD's sales contract real quick. It will not take you long, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tina to wrap up. You can download the electronically fillable sales contract in the addendums tab at HUDhomestore.com or from blbresources.com. I'd recommend, after you submit your bid, going to blbresources.com. This first page is just the information, the instructions for the sales contract. It's one page. And this is the bidding form. This is the actual bid. This is your contract. One page. It's incredible. How many pages are on a current car form? That's just a lot. I haven't seen this for 40 years, 35 years, something like that. Yeah, it's one page. This is the BLB resources, and it takes you through line item by line item, what's needed, how to do it. Very simple, color-coded. It's really easy, and they've got all the California forms that you guys are going to need on that site. Get really used to going to those sites, HUDhomestore.com and BLB resources. In the contract, we need the case number in the top right-hand corner, the buyer's name, the subject property, address, including the county, the buyer's name as he's going to take title, and the method of title that he's going to take. Enter the purchase price on line 3, the earnest money deposit. In our area, it's going to be $1,000, provided the price is $50,000 or more. If it's a vacant lot, we do need a 50% earnest money deposit. For good neighbor next door properties, they're rare, but they are out there on occasion. The deposit's a little different. It's 1% of the list price, not less than $500, and not to exceed $2,000. These amounts are non-negotiable. Very important, please also enter the name of the buyer's selected escrow company. The old days it was HUD designated closing agent. That's no longer. It's now a buyer select program, and Tina's going to explain the rules to you shortly. You need that deposit payable to the buyer name or the escrow that your buyer has designated. The buyer name or the escrow that your buyer has designated, so that either one of those can negotiate that deposit, okay? Enter when appropriate, strictly in compliance with the seller's offering. In other words, if it's 203B financing, if it's insured, that's the correct box to hit, is the first one. If it's got a repair escrow, check that appropriate box, etc. If it does have a repair escrow, check the box below that said mortgage involves a repair escrow amounting to, put that in, type that amount in there, and you'll know what that amount is because we show it in the MLS and it's shown at HUDhomestore.com. If the buyer's paying cash or applying for a conventional loan, you check the appropriate box there as well. Line 5, if closing costs were included when the bid was submitted, the amount entered on this line must match the bid. Please note the requested closing cost may be up to 3% of the purchase price. If the requested amount exceeds the actual cost, the remaining difference will not be credited to the purchaser and does not reduce the purchase price. Note, escrow fees will now be a buyer's expense. HUD will only pay a portion of the closing fees if the buyer includes closing costs on line 5 at the time of bid submission and there are sufficient funds remaining to allow for this fee to be paid. If there are no closing costs included in the bid, the buyer will be required to pay all the escrow and closing fees. Line 6A is the selling agent commission, up to 3%, and you guys can monitor that. You can adjust that amount. 6B is the LLB's commission. You cannot tinker with that. But you got to please note that it's got to be the same amount as what was submitted at the time of bid submission. You subtract lines 5, 6A, and 6B from line 3 to determine line 7. It's the net amount due HUD. Line 8, remember this is that box for owner-occupant status. This is the one to make sure this guy is really going to be an owner-occ and not just trying to stack the deck in his favor. Unless the purchasers are a nonprofit or government agency, the discount amount should always be blank, okay? Always enter 45 days unless the buyer is using 203K financing. Then enter 60 days for escrow period. Enter the buyer's selected escrow company. and check the appropriate box for backup status. I strongly recommend you do that. Just one little checkbox could put a deal in your hand. The buyer must initial. This is liquidated damages. And just be careful you don't, the seller's initials is right next to it. Just be careful you don't initial there. And signature slot for your buyer. Make sure that all their information asked for is filled in, the social number and the purchaser address and phone number, the date the contract was signed. Please don't sign at the very bottom. You're tempted to sign down there in the seller slot. Be careful that you don't do that. The broker, this is the broker whose NAID number that's connected to. This is not you as the selling agent. This is the NAID registered broker, must sign and date. Signature stamps and DocuSign stamps are not acceptable. You've heard it been said that blue ink is required by HUD. It's not. It's just that they don't like to see copies. They can't take copies. And black ink can look like a copy. I detest black inks. When I see black pens around the office now, I trash them. I just don't want them around. I don't want even the temptation to use one to be there. I want to use it all blue. I want all my people to be in the habit of using blue. And this is the condition of sale, which must also be signed by the purchaser. It's easy to miss, but just make sure you get that signed.